Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty important, the FBI's 2024 IC3 annual report.
Right, the Internet Crime Complaint Center.
Exactly. And this report, well, it's basically the ground truth on cybercrime and online fraud that gets reported by the public. We're going to unpack what it tells us.
Yeah, and it's the IC3's 25th anniversary report, actually. So it's more than just numbers. It really tracks how criminals are, exploiting our connected lives. Gives us a unique view from the public's perspective.
And the scale is, honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing. For 2024, the IC3 logged reports of $16.6 billion in losses.
Billion, with a B.
Right. $16.6 billion. That's up 33% from the year before. And as we'll see, fraud is the big driver behind those losses.
That huge jump probably reflects, well, two things. We're all online more, and the criminals are just getting better and more sophisticated with their tactics. They adapt fast.
It seems like it. And think about how many people are actually reporting this stuff. Over the last 5 years, IC3 averaged over 2,000 complaints a day.
Every single day.
Yeah. And since they started 25 years ago, it's over 9 million complaints total. It just shows how tangled up our lives are online and, well, where the crime follows.
It really does. The IC3 acts as this critical hub. It gives law enforcement the data to see trends, understand the methods, and sometimes, crucially, help get stolen money back. It's vital for just grasping the size of the problem.
Okay, before we jump into the specifics, we really want to thank the folks who helped make this deep dive happen.
Absolutely.
Big thanks to www.breached.company, your place to stay updated on the latest data breaches. Also, databreachcostcalculator.com, a great tool for businesses trying to figure out the potential cost of cyber incidents.
Super useful for planning.
And findmydata.com, which helps you, the individual, find and manage your personal info online. We really appreciate their support.
We do. Okay, so let's get into those key findings.
Let's do it.
So the top line numbers for 2024, as you said, 859,532 complaints came into the IC3.
Almost 860,000. Wow.
And those complaints added up to that $16.6 billion loss figure we mentioned. If you break it down, the average loss per complaint reported was $19,372.
$19,000. Mm-hmm. That average really makes it hit home, doesn't it? It's not just some abstract number. That's real pain for real people.
Exactly.
And looking back 5 years, 2020 to 2024, we're talking 4.2 million complaints.
And the total losses reported in that 5-year span, $50.5 billion.
$50.5 billion. It's just a constant, huge drain.
It is a stark picture of this ongoing threat. Now let's look at who's getting hit the hardest. The report breaks it down by age.
Yeah, and this is pretty revealing. The group with the most complaints and the highest reported losses, people aged 60 and over, they filed 147,127 complaints, and the reported losses hit $4.8 billion. That's a huge chunk of the total.
It is. And what's worrying there is, this group is often targeted with specific scams, grandparent scams, fake prize winnings, things that prey on trust and can just wipe out savings. And the fact they report the most suggests they're encountering these threats frequently.
It's awful to think about the impact on them. But it's not just older folks, right? The report shows big losses across the board. People aged 40 to 49, for example, reported $2.2 billion in losses.
That's a key point. While the 60-plus group has the biggest overall financial hit, every age group is vulnerable. They just get targeted differently. Younger people might see more, say, employment scams or dodgy investment schemes on social media.
Makes sense. Okay, let's pivot to the types of crimes reported most often. Just looking at the sheer number of complaints.
Right.
Phishing and spoofing are way out in front. 193,407 complaints, almost double the next highest category.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Phishing is often the starting point for so many other attacks. Stealing logins, dropping malware, tricking people into sending money. It's the digital pickpocket, basically.
Good analogy. So after phishing, extortion is number 2 with about 86,000 complaints. Then personal data breach, around 65,000.
Then you've got non-payment, non-delivery-like stuff you bought online that never shows up.
Right, that's almost 50,000 complaints. Followed by investment scams, tech support fraud. What stands out to you there?
Well, the high number for extortion is definitely notable. That covers everything from ransomware demands on individuals to things like sextortion. Being number 2 in volume is significant. And also, you see cryptocurrency listed separately, but it's labeled as a descriptor. It shows up in almost 150,000 entries.
So not a crime type itself, but involved in a lot of different reported crimes.
Exactly. It's like a flag that gets raised across many different reports. Investment fraud, extortion, you name it. We'll definitely need to circle back to crypto.
Okay, yeah, good point. Let's hold that thought and look at the crimes ranked by loss, where the biggest money damage is. That paints a different picture.
It really does. When you follow the money, investment scams shoot right to the top. A staggering $6.57 billion in reported losses.
$6.5 billion from investment scams alone. Wow. Seems like that promise of high returns, maybe mixed with some pressure tactics, is just incredibly effective, unfortunately.
Devastatingly effective. And number 2 for losses. Business email compromise, or BEC.
Ah, yes. The fake invoice scams. CEO impersonations.
Exactly. That accounted for $2.77 billion. Shows the huge risk for businesses. Then you have tech support fraud, surprisingly high at $1.46 billion in losses.
That much for tech support scams.
Yep, and personal data breaches led to another $1.45 billion in losses. Again, that cryptocurrency descriptor, associated with $9.32 billion in losses across all the different crime types it was flagged in.
So it's a clear contrast. Phishing is everywhere in terms of attempts, but investment and BEC scams, though maybe fewer incidents overall, cause much bigger financial hits per victim.
Precisely. High frequency, maybe lower individual impact for many phishing attempts versus these targeted schemes that can drain massive amounts.
The report also talks about these broader cyber-enabled fraud trends.
Right.
Basically old-school fraud tactics supercharged by the internet.
Right. And it's striking almost 83% of all the losses reported to IC3 in 2024 fell into this category. It's $13.7 billion.
$13.7 billion. So technology is just deeply woven into how criminals operate now.
Absolutely. The report gives examples like call center scams. Those alone resulted in $1.9 billion in losses.
They're all unbelievable.
And the FBI has been warning specifically about scammers pretending to be crypto exchanges and also this rise in tech support scams hitting older adults hard, pressuring them to send cash or give remote access.
It's a constant cat and mouse game, isn't it? As tech evolves, so do the scams, and deliberately targeting vulnerable groups is just particularly awful.
It really is. Now, shifting slightly away from pure fraud, the report also covers the wider cyber threat landscape. Ransomware is still a major headache, especially for critical infrastructure.
Yeah, I saw that. A 9% increase in ransomware complaints from 2023. And IC3 got over 4,800 complaints just from critical infrastructure organizations hit by cyber threats.
And for them, ransomware and data breaches were the top reported issues.
Which is scary because disrupting critical infrastructure, power, water, hospitals, that affects everyone.
Exactly. The report even names the top 5 ransomware variants they saw: Akira, Lockbit, Ransom Hub, FOG, and Play. Knowing the specific strains helps defenders, focus their efforts.
Definitely highlights the need for strong security in those vital sectors.
But it's not all bad news. The report also covers some of the FBI's proactive work and successes, particularly the IC3 Recovery Asset Team. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, this is pretty cool. So the Recovery Asset Team, or RAT. Maybe not the best acronym.
Probably not.
Anyway, their job is to try and claw back money for victims of fraud. They use something called the Financial Fraud Kill Chain, or FFKC. It's about acting fast to freeze funds after a bogus transfer is reported.
And how effective is it?
Pretty effective, actually. In 2024, the FFKC had a 66% success rate in their recovery attempts. They went after $848.4 million in total.
66%? That's impressive. That's potentially hundreds of millions stopped from ending up with the criminals. It relies on quick reporting and fast communication between banks and the FBI, right?
Exactly. Speed is key. And they share some great success stories. Like Operation Level Up, they notified over 4,300 people who are victims of crypto investment fraud.
Right.
Get this, 76% of those victims didn't even know they were being scammed.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. And that operation is estimated to have saved those folks over $285 million just by intervening.
That's incredible. It shows the power of analyzing all that data IC3 collects. They can spot these big schemes and jump in. And the fact that so many didn't know they were victims just shows how sneaky these scams are.
Totally. The report also mentions international work, specifically cracking down on call centers in India running scams. That led to a 700% increase in arrests there in 2024.
That highlights how global this problem is. You need that cross-border cooperation. Cybercrime doesn't respect borders.
True. And on the malware front, they managed to seize the war zone RAT infrastructure.
A remote access Trojan. Nasty stuff.
Yeah, really sophisticated. It basically gives criminals total control over a victim's computer without them knowing. Taking that down prevents a lot of potential harm.
Disrupting the tools criminals use is critical. Seizing things like Warzone RAT stops potentially thousands of infections, data thefts, ransomware attacks.
And there's even a specific example of the recovery asset team stopping a BEC scam mid-transaction, someone trying to divert funds from a real estate deal. They managed to recover over $955,000.
See, that just hammers home the message. Report quickly. The sooner IC3 knows, the better the chance the recovery asset team can use that FFKC process and maybe get the money back.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've touched on it a few times, but let's zoom in on cryptocurrency fraud. The report makes it clear this is a huge and growing problem area.
Huge is right. In 2024, IC3 got nearly 150,000 complaints, 149,686 to be exact, that mentioned cryptocurrency.
And the losses?
The losses linked to those complaints hit $9.3 billion. That's a 66% increase in crypto-related losses compared to 2023.
66% increase in 1 year. That's alarming. It really feels like crypto, being relatively new for many and having that high return allure, is just prime territory for scammers.
It seems so. And again, it's hitting older adults hard. The 60-plus age group reported the most crypto fraud, with losses totaling $2.8 billion just for them in this area.
$2.8 billion. You can see why education and awareness are so critical, especially since crypto can seem complex, making it easier for scammers to exploit that lack of understanding.
Definitely. The report breaks down where crypto features most prominently in fraud types, too. Investment scams, no surprise, were the biggest chunk of the losses, $5.8 billion.
$5.8 billion just in crypto investment scams.
But also, interestingly, scams involving crypto ATMs or kiosks resulted in $246.7 million in losses.
ATMs? How do those scams work?
Well, it could be things like fake QR codes directing funds to a scammer's wallet, people impersonating support staff at the kiosk, or tricking someone into using the ATM as part of a different scam, like a tech support or romance scam payoff.
I see. So the ATM is just the payment mechanism they push victims towards.
Right. And looking at the crime types most associated with crypto use overall. Investment is top, then personal data breach, tech support scams, extortion, and even employment scams.
So it's really woven into the fabric of many different types of cybercrime now. It's not just one thing. It's a tool they use across the board.
It's clearly become a major facilitator. It offers, or at least seems to offer, anonymity and easy cross-border movement of money for criminals. This trend looks set to continue, so people need extreme caution with anything crypto-related.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the 2024 IC3 report, the main takeaway is just the sheer scale, isn't it? $16.6 billion in losses. It's sobering.
It really is. And the report gives us these invaluable insights into the threats, how they're changing, the big jump in crypto losses, the persistence of ransomware. These are key things to be aware of.
Absolutely. And it drives home how important it is for everyone, for you listening, to report suspected cybercrime to the IC3. That's IC3.gov.
Yeah, reporting isn't just about potentially getting your own situation resolved. It feeds into this larger intelligence picture that helps law enforcement fight back more effectively. Every report adds a piece to the puzzle.
Even if it feels small, it helps them see the bigger patterns.
Exactly.
And once more, we really want to thank our sponsors for supporting the deep dive: www.breached.company, databreachcostcalculator.com, and findmydata.com.
Their resources are genuinely helpful for individuals and businesses trying to navigate these risks and improve their security posture.
They are. So finally, maybe a question for you to think about after hearing all this. Given how sophisticated cybercrime is getting and the massive financial impact we've discussed, what steps can we, as individuals and organizations, realistically take to actually reduce our risk in this digital world that's always changing?
It's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
It really needs layers. Good security habits, being aware of the common scams, using strong technical protections, and just staying vigilant, constantly learning. There's no single silver bullet, unfortunately.
A constant effort. Well, thanks for joining us for this important deep dive. Stay safe out there.